very impressed at the number of faces that I see at this event. Welcome to Anaplan and to the Persian Women in Tech event. My name is Karen Chang, and I am Director of Engineering here in San Francisco. Anaplan is probably the most successful pre-IPO private software enterprise company that you've never heard of. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time making a plug for who we are. Our product is a cloud-native platform that's in the connected planning space. So what that means is business users come in and they create forecasts in order to model kind of business questions around supply chain management, workforce management, financial planning and analysis, and budgeting. Of course, we're hiring, so I'm gonna mention that as well. So the team in San Francisco is roughly 50 engineers, and we have roles in basically every domain. We need engineering leaders, we need folks who are experts in machine learning, so data engineers, data scientists. We have kind of large-scale back-end problems, so scale-out architectures in Java. And of course, we have customers who use our UI, so UI and UX engineers as well. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to me or anyone kind of wearing a tag that says host, or Tina, who's on the panel afterwards. So just a little bit about Anaplan, since we're a pretty young company. Like, culture is something that we're starting to build from the ground up. So an example of this is our Women in Technology Network, which was bootstrapped about a year ago. And it has executive sponsorship from our CEO, Frank Calderoni. And it's been really exciting to see the level of dialogue, engagement, excitement, and championing of kind of women's issues in the workplace that has happened within this group. One of our core cultural values here is collaboration, by the way. And so we thought this event kind of converged really nicely with that cultural value. And I'm really interested in the dialogue that's going to happen with this panel today around diversity and inclusion. As someone who identifies as LGBT, being an Asian female in engineering, this is something that really resonates with me personally as well. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce Sebi Naziri. And Sebi is a longtime advocate in the D&I space, diversity and inclusion. She's the founder of Persian Women in Technology. And prior to that, she was VP of Women 2.0. And so welcome, Sebi, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Karen. As Karen mentioned, my name is Sebi Naziri. I am the CEO and founder of Persian Women Tech. Before I go into actually who we are and what we do, I always like to get a feel of the room and who is in here. So show of hands, how many of you are new to our event, have never been to our event before? Woo! Thank you. Look at this. Welcome. Thank you so much. How many of you are technologists? That means engineering, UX, UI. Perfect. How many of you are investors? Yay. Need money, that's for you. Did I miss anyone in the back here? Okay, perfect. Who's hiring? Who needs a job? All right, so you know who to talk to. Thank you so much. So Persian Women in Tech, we've been around about 3.5 years. We started here in Silicon Valley, the heart of where technology is being built and innovation is created. I've been in tech for about 16 years now. Started my first company right out of college in Southern California, and since then have worked for successful startups in the Baier, all acquired today. So that's what happens when you come here and build companies, they get acquired. Hopefully Anaplan is next too. Sometimes you don't know. So the mission around what we do is building an ecosystem where you can tap into and bring resources, but also take resources. So our mission and also our philosophy is you're not here to take something today. first and foremost, please give back to your community. So every single person here is either somehow connected to companies, somehow connected to a network where they can provide opportunities to other people. So that's first and foremost why we are here. We are around the world in 9 cities right now, including London, Paris, obviously here in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, Texas, Boston, Washington, D.C., and then we're in the East Bay and the South Bay as well. We're launching in 10 more cities this year. So if you're not in your city, please contact us. We would love to come and launch there as well. Our programs include these networking events, conferences. We have once a year an annual conference called Women of MENA in Tech. So we've expanded into the MENA region, so Middle East, North Africa. If you want to host us, thank you so much, Anaplan, really. Tina, obviously, and T, Karen, and everyone else here. Without these companies, we would not be able to put these events, so we really appreciate your support. And this is also somehow we can give back to the diversity and inclusion, which is really important, particularly in the tech system. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Lida John, who is going to be moderating today's panel. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to all the panelists. Really appreciate you coming here and giving us your time. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. So how this will work is every person will introduce themselves, and we'll give each of us about 30 seconds. So I'm Lida, and it's great to be here. I'm really excited about moderating this panel. A little bit more about me. I was born in Tehran. I moved to Ottawa with my family when I was 9 years old. And fun fact, Justin Trudeau lives there, not too far from where my parents live. And I have moved around and have lived and worked on all 5 continents. And now I'm here in San Francisco for the last 3 years. And I've essentially been on all sides of the funding table. So Seppi has mentioned like investors and so on. So I worked at a fund, but then I'm also a founder. And then I worked at large companies and small companies. So I definitely get where everyone's coming from, and there's different trials and tribulations with all of that. Having said that, I'm really excited, having been a hiring manager for 5 years. And yeah, so I'm also really passionate about this topic. And last, you might see me at events speaking in the Bay Area. So earlier today, I led a team presentation at Google next door at a conference, and then I'm speaking at something next week. There is a general assembly, so I would love to connect and find me on LinkedIn. Thanks. And I'll pass it to Shadi John.
Done?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited and glad to be here. I was born in Tehran, and actually I was raised in Tehran. I did my undergraduate there, and then I left and went to Canada to do my PhD. I used to live there and work in Mountain View, and then I followed the sun and actually moved to the area. I work in Alto Network, which is a cybersecurity company. Our mission is to protect our way of life by protecting you guys from cyber attacks. And so I am a VP of engineering there, and I'm very committed to inclusion and diversity, and that's why I drove for 2 hours today to be here. I'm very excited. I came from Santa Clara, coming all the way to the city. But I think it's a very, very important topic for all of us. It's, and one thing that I always want to say, that this is not about just gender or race. It's about belonging, and every one of us belongs to where we are. So I think inclusion is very, very important. I'm very happy to see a diverse group of people here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tina Poblacion, and I am a recruiter here at Anaplan. So welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. I have spent the last couple of years of my career in tech recruiting, working at companies such as Yahoo, Hotel Tonight, Union Bank, and now very happy here at Anaplan. As you may have noticed, I'm not Iranian, but my parents are immigrants from Mexico and the Philippines. So I definitely have a very strong support for D&I, and hope that we can all learn from each other tonight. So thank you so much for joining.
everyone. My name is Roya, Pourmand. I was born and raised here in the Bay Area to two Iranian American immigrants. I graduated from the UC system at the newest UC, University of California, Merced. I started out my career in recruiting a little over a year ago at Sheryl Sandberg's foundation, so working with lean-in communities, and then I went over to Uber where I did recruiting coordination. And now I'm at Stripe where I work on engineering recruiting, and I'm an active member of our women's ERG called Equate. Really excited to be here with you all tonight.
Hi, my name is Guissu Baier. I'm VP of HR at Instacart. I was born here in the Bay Area, raised in Southern California, and made my way back up here to go to law school. Actually, my law school roommates in the audience as well. Born in the U.S. To two Iranian parents, proud Farsi speaking, and attempting to pass that on to my two little girls, despite their father not being Iranian born. He's learning Farsi, so there you go. And yes, in terms of my career, started out my career as an attorney, as an employment lawyer at a major litigation firm, in-house at Visa, in-house at Instacart, and then ended up taking the opportunity to lead the HR function. So have also led D&I initiatives at Instacart, and looking forward to our discussion today.
Great. Since you have the mic, Guissu, and to start us off, I'd love to know a little bit more about how you make the case for diversity at your organization.
Yeah, so I have a few, so we are, as I'm sure many of the companies you work at or have worked for, we're incredibly data-driven. So in any time we wanted to put forth anything, it was really important that we came back with the data. I don't think anybody in the room is gonna sit there and say, even if they may be thinking it, but I don't care about diversity and inclusion. So really tying that knot and tying it back to the business initiative, especially, I think is critical. So two things, for us at Instacart, it was very clear. It was both the right thing to do because of who we are and our values and culture as a company, but also the smart thing to do. The research showed it the minute you sort of start to lay out all the scientific research behind why this is important, that was really clear. But I think the thing that was probably the most and continues to be the most important part of it is tying it back to our business product. I mean, almost 80% of our shoppers are women. We have, and then our customers as well, as I'm sure, hopefully many of you are users. I was a huge fan of the product before joining. And even to this day, as a member of the executive team, I get to influence the way that product is built out because I'm a hyper user of the product relative to some of the other people who may be in the room. So, at the end of the day, all of us, especially in the startup space, are trying to build successful companies. The premise of diversity and inclusion contributing to that growth is there. I think just tying it back to how it makes better products, it makes better services, it makes our business better in a direct way. For example, tying it back to customers and users, I think is by far the most compelling way to make that case.
Awesome.
I have one.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. As a hiring manager, I hire people, but the manager is important. The longer they stay, the better it's going to be for me. Because it's always a learning curve. People go through it, and then, that's the return on my investment. If people feel like that they belong somewhere, they definitely will stay longer. So to create an environment, that's why I make the case that it's valuable for a company. If you have an inclusive environment, people feel belong, they'll stay longer, and it's going to be beneficial for the company because you get that benefit of business.
Awesome.
And just to add on, just to add on to that, I also, just being in recruitment and sort of through the years, trying to really support D&I, and then also realizing, it's not just about, hiring the person, but also how do we retain them? Like, for instance, how do they feel like there's a sense of belonging, a place where, there's people like them, that they feel like they belong there as well. So I also think that, it's not just a challenge of attracting the talent, but also how do you
Great, yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I was at the Google Next conference, and there was a similar type of panel, so I wrote down a couple of stats. In addition to what you said, it's been found, like data, as Guissu mentioned, a McKinsey report that the companies that in the top quartiles, so the top 25% for ethnic diversity and gender diversity, outperformed all the other companies by over 35%. And also another study from last year that said companies with more female board directors outperformed 53% of the other companies. So there's definitely dollars behind the data. So if anything, if you have companies where you need to make the business case, you can definitely point to these studies. Great. Now I'd love to move on to experiences and your personal experience, for example, that influenced your thinking regarding diversity and how you became the diversity advocates and change agents you are. So I'd love to give a chance for Roya to give her opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the personal experience that stands out to me is going to a school that was so new. Like I mentioned, Guissu said, it was only 8 years old when I joined. There was over 50% of first generation students, a lot of those different unrepresented minorities, and maybe not having the resources to go out into the career and apply what they learned in the classroom. So myself included, didn't know I'd be working in tech, didn't know how my political science skills and my background would translate to that. So seeking out resources. And then seeing my friends who were in computer science, maybe they didn't know how to go out into the industry and do these technical interviews and spend 5 to 6 hours on-site coding. And so one of the things I did that kind of changed my perspective on how we recruit is go to my university recruiting team and say, how about we go to these schools that are minority-serving institutions, up-and-coming CS programs, and we actually teach them how to do these technical interviews. And so you're not necessarily curating a pipeline as you think recruiters are doing, but you're investing knowledge, you're sharing knowledge, and then 5 to 6 years down the line, when you go back to the school, you have a thriving CS program, and you have a diverse pool of candidates that you can choose from, and you can invite them and set them up for success when you bring them through your process.
Great. Does anyone else want to share a personal experience that made them a change agent? Tina, you look like you want to share something, please.
I was just actually talking about this with Luke, who's in the audience. I'm going to share my story, Luke,
Sure.
the one that I told you. So about a couple of years back at a previous company, a lot of candidates will reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn. And so I had this one particular new college grad, or soon to be new college grad, reach out to me. And he asked if, he basically his dream was to meet our mobile team. And he was in the Bay Area because he was doing an internship for the summer. So I invited him out to the company for lunch, and we started chatting. And his background, he was from Haiti. And I said, so, how did you get into your science? What was sort of your passion? Did you learn this in school growing up? And he told me, he said, no, they didn't offer it in school. He said, I would literally go to the internet cafe, and with a very slow connection, probably dial-up, he said, I was downloading these YouTube videos on how to code. And he was so driven by it, so inspired, and got really into it. I was sitting there across from this maybe 21-year-old who I was so inspired by, because you think about the challenges that people have, and for him to have so many challenges and not have the resources either, but to drive the path and drive his career path. Well, turns out what happened was while he was in college and he was working on some hackathons, the earthquake in Haiti was hit with a rather large earthquake. And so one of the things that he did is that he actually created an app by doing a hackathon to help families in Haiti find people who are unaccounted for, because their infrastructure is not that great. And I was just literally, I think, very blown away and inspired by somebody so young already with this type of mindset. And when you think about it, he had so many challenges in front of him to get to where he is. And I think it's really important for, people to realize, anybody who's involved in hiring that, people who come from different places, different backgrounds, they all grew up differently and they're all going to attempt to solve problems in different ways. They've had their own issues. And so to me, that sort of stuck with me. I shared that with Luke because he's one of our amazing engineers here at Anaplan, who also runs monthly hackathons on his own for social impact. So that's one of the things I want to share as well.
Wow, amazing stories. Thank you both for sharing. I don't know, I don't have anything to top that. That's just amazing. I would say just the distance traveled, that's kind of what I look for as well as a hiring manager. It means you have to do a lot more work because you have to look for the people who didn't necessarily graduate from an Ivy League school and didn't have the background that would make them an easy case. And then, if you do bet wrong and then you have to make the reason why you hired this person, I actually always went for the risky person, which meant I would also be fighting for them. So I'm really glad that there are people who, the distance traveled concept for me is makes up more than any experience or schooling you may have or not. Great. So the next question from my side is for those of you who are managing teams, which I know a couple are, what's key in your mind for developing and managing diverse teams? So Shadi's next to me, so I'm gonna ask you first.
Yes, I always tell my team that, again, back to belonging, back to having a successful team, you have to make sure that we allow everybody with a different background to be able to grow in their environment. And different people bring different perspectives into a meeting. I am a very loud person, so I interrupt people. I always say my point. But there are some people who are shy. So I always tell people that make sure as you are in a meeting, if you feel like that person, doesn't matter what gender they are, if that person is not being heard or is too shy to speak or being interrupted, make sure that you become their advocate and say, okay, Joe had a point or Jane had a point. Let them speak up. I think that's very important to give voice to people if you want to have an inclusive environment. I think that's the first thing that we do. And then there are a number of processes that we take. I was part of a panel. There was I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Grace Hopper. There was an executive forum on the Grace Hopper. I was part of that discussion group. And somebody mentioned that they did a study and they realized that the performance reviews that were given to people are very different. Sometimes to male candidates, it's all about what you should do, and to female candidates, it's all about how. Be aggressive or not be aggressive, or be loud or not be loud, and so on and so forth. And I tell people that, the managers who report to me, as you're reviewing people, make sure you be aware of that, because we all have subconscious biases, and we might without thinking about it. So make sure you're aware of that, so that you're giving opportunity to everybody, whatever their gender and their race or the color or whatever they have, because we have a very diverse group. We're a number of people here. The number of us are female, but we are very different from each other. So make sure that you are giving opportunity to everybody and help them grow. I think these are very, very important, and we need to consciously think about them, because if we are not careful about them, then our subconscious bias might kick in, and we might, without even thinking about it, not be in an inclusive environment.
Great. And Guissu, I know you also manage teams and managers. I'd love to know what have been some of your strategies to manage these diverse teams?
Absolutely. So, managers are force multipliers at your company in many respects. Driving your business results, driving your culture, and driving diversity and inclusion is no different. So one of the things we did as part of our diversity and inclusion initiatives, which was, by the way, something both managers and employees were hungry for, is manager training. One component of that was a whole session. We've done 6-month-long programs called Recipes for Leadership. One of the 10 sessions is specifically on managing bias and how bias shows up in management of teams. We also did company-wide unconscious bias at our retreat 2 years ago now. Joelle Emerson at Paradigm, also a lawyer, has done amazing work in really shining a light on unconscious bias in, a very data-driven way that resonated with our culture and how we approach things. So those are sort of the obvious ones around hiring and around performance. Maybe not obvious, but just sort of table stakes that you need in terms of being a manager as a team. But also just being a great manager, of understanding what motivates the individuals on your team and understanding that each individual is motivated by different factors, and that it's your job to figure out, how they're motivated is, I think it's just great management, but it also then feeds into the culture piece and the inclusion piece that is so critical to this conversation.
Perfect, thank you so much. Great, shifting gears a little bit, I also wanted to know from the recruiter's perspective, we've heard the people manager side, but I'd love to know, can you talk a little bit about how you speak to other recruiters and maybe other folks on your team about these issues? So maybe Tina, Roya.
So thinking about previous experiences and talking to even people managers about the subject, I think there's nobody that's going to say that they don't want to be supportive of D&I, that they don't want more diverse teams. But I think it's also sort of educating them how to do it as well. So like for instance, at a previous company where I was, it's like you get so used to, I guess, hiring managers sometimes always, historically have seen maybe, the more what they would think is pedigree candidates, like top school, top companies. And it's really a mindset to try to talk them through the change to consider, maybe candidates who have not had the privilege or resource to attend a top school that got them into, the top companies. But also explaining to them, the benefit of having a diverse team, as we spoke about earlier, is being able to solve problems in a different way. I'm sure if we had, 10 engineers in the room who, were all like-minded, it may, it may turn out, people are trying to solve things the same way. But if you have 10 people from, different places that are completely, have gone through their own different challenges growing up, people are going to come up with, different results, different ways to solve things. And I think it's really just about, sort of educating the managers on, how to look at these resumes, how to consider these candidates and the benefits.
Yeah, definitely agree with kind of educating them, maybe creating rubrics when you're reviewing resumes with hiring managers and try to make that unconscious bias a little less. I think in addition to that, reminding your hiring partners, whether they're recruiters or hiring managers, to be consistent. I think oftentimes we set goals for ourselves for maybe our most senior candidates for the things that are the most visible in the company. Maybe we want to bring 1 to 2 underrepresented candidates on site for our most senior roles, but challenging ourselves to apply that to a whole company, especially when you're in a small startup, right? Those first 10 hires are going to set the stage for all the hires you make a year from now, 2 years from now. So putting in that extra time, being consistent in the beginning, is really going to set you up for your company in the future and looking forward.
Great.
Shadi.
Shadi.
I want to add.
Please.
I have heard and studies have shown that when you write a job description, a female candidate would only apply if they meet all of the requirements. A male candidate would apply if they meet 50% of the requirements. So that must be very overestimation. But I always tell my team, be careful. What are you putting there? To make sure that you're attracting the right candidate. So to make sure that you're not limiting your pool, because people won't apply. They think, oh no, I don't know all of these buzzwords that you have over here. So I think it's very important that we consciously think about that. Who is going to be attracted to our job description? And I'm sure the manager report to work with the counterpart recruiter to make sure that they handle it. I think you have to, again, consciously think about it and make sure that you handle that. And again, if you're applying for a job, apply. That's okay. If you don't have all the requirements, but you're a motivated person, I always tell my team that you can teach people, but you cannot make them motivated. you have the right personality, you can go and you can learn stuff. So believe in yourself if you're a candidate and apply for the job, even if you don't have all the Guissu requirements.
That's great. And since you have the mic, I want to ask you another question. This is sometimes divisive, but I want to know what you think about whether we have a funnel or a pipeline problem for diversity, especially because you have a big technical team. And if so, what can we do about it? And if not, then we're all good.
So yeah, you're right. This is a decisive issue, and sometimes I feel like that you can say there's no problem and don't worry about it, right? But if we agree that there's something that can be improved, then we can put the effort to improve it. And from what I see, the normal candidates that I get, I see a funnel problem. And if I look at different genders, different race, I don't see a very diverse group. And at the same, so we have that issue. I have two daughters who are almost 15 years old. They're twins. So I see even my daughters, not both of them want to go to tech, right? So I have the role model. Maybe I'm a bad role model. I don't know, but they have the role model, but they still not decided. And one thing that actually bothered me, just as a side note, one of my daughters, she's in 8th grade, and she won the math award. They give to 2 students in the grade. And one of the boys went to her and said that they gave it to you because they wanted to have a boy and a girl. Otherwise, it would be 2 boys. And I told her, your answer should have been to her that they gave it to a boy. They gave it to a boy and a girl because they wanted. Otherwise, it would have been 2 girls. Why are you biased that it should be only that's the default? But there is a further problem because of the way, because somebody who could have, somebody who's a young girl who hears that comment might discourage them from continuing that path. So there's a cultural issue. So we don't have to worry about that right now. but we have thought like that. How can we solve the problem? And I think one thing that we have done at Palo is said, okay, let's tackle the problem in a way that let's get a little bit crazy. So for example, if you look at cybersecurity, the number of female in cybersecurity is small. The percentage in our public knowledge, they're not that high. So one thing that company has done is partner with Girl Scout to create a badge. So you try to handle the case that it's a long-term investment that's going to come later. But that's a very long-term investment. So what do we do for short-term? Because we don't have the problem right now. For example, one thing that we need to do is that let's tackle the group of people who have taken some time to be able to take care of somebody. Either a mom or a dad who have a newborn and decided that they want to take care. They've gone off the market. Or somebody who the caretaker decided to take some time off to take care of their elderly parents. So people have taken, and these have gone off the market, so it might be harder for them to come back. Let's go and tackle that group. You have something else. You shouldn't always go and try to go look at Ivy Leagues from Google and Facebook and say that's the only people that we want to have in our pool of candidates. Let's go and widen the range, and I'm sure you can reach out to that community and get them, and I'm sure you can find great candidates. So these are the things that I think we need to get a little more creative if we want to solve that funnel problem. We need to reach out to different sources. If we always look at people who are, who just in that group, we might be limited. So we need to find, creative ways to solve that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn messaging people with the right qualifications and not really poaching them, but kind of saying, do you want to change? And even if they haven't applied for a role that I put out, I'm like, this is a good place to work. So I invite the audience to think of questions that you will have, because we'll have 10 minutes for Q&A, and I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions. So please let some ideas percolate, because we will have Q&A very soon. So I'd love to know for you ladies, what are some policies or programs, maybe some ERGs that you have worked on and you've helped advance that you wish to highlight? This is open to all of you.
I can jump in here. So a couple things. One, again, not to beat a dead horse here, but in the spirit of measuring in data, a couple things we've done that have been really helpful. One is, of course, you look at the diversity numbers, sort of that's one side of it. The other piece of it is measuring inclusion and measuring belonging. That's a really tough thing to do, and we have found we use Culture Amp for our surveys, and again, they're very research-backed. They have a set of questions that have been really deeply vetted that help us measure belonging so that we can get a pulse of the company, not just on engagement, but specifically on do you feel like you have a voice here, do you feel like you belong? We also established employee resource groups, ERGs, like you mentioned, Women at Instacart, Rainbow Carrots, Carrots of Color, and one of my personal favorites, Little Carrots for parents. We really encourage those groups to be more than just social groups. We encourage those groups to be, actually, if you sort of dig into what an ERG is supposed to be, they're intended to be an alternate source for professional development. And so especially with our Women at Instacart, I just came from an event there. I mean, it's amazing how much the company is growing and that we're always barely squeezing into where we had happy hour last year at our retreat. But really encouraging that social part to be just a part of it and to invest in other things, professional networking, mentorship, other things that advance us. And then similarly, I'll just use our Little Carrots as an example, and this may come full circle to the point I made earlier about bringing it back to the business. We were launching our first commercial not that long ago, and before we decided to do that, we shared the draft cut with Little Carrots amongst the parent group for feedback, and there was a ton that came out. Both Women at Instacart and Little Carrots had a lot of feedback on the way that the commercial was put together, that we actually invested in changing to ensure that it was sending the right message about what we think our product delivers. And that to me is sort of like, I was very happy to see that come through as a way why these communities are important to actually, again, making our business better.
Please.
Yes, I actually want to say that we are exactly something very similar to this. Interesting. I think it's very important to have the data to measure how well you're doing that. Asking that sort of question of whether you have a voice, a sense of belonging, you're using the same tools as yours. And one of the things that we've always mentioned, I tell my people to make sure that within the engineering organization we're doing is to make it easy. We always say that we all work hard. We're all hard workers. But at the same time, we need to have a flexible environment. Somebody wants to coach soccer, match of his or her daughter, we should be able to allow that. We should be able to be flexible and understand that people have this work-life balance and make sure that you include that you're not only or basically accepting people who are working and don't have any other things in their lives. If you want to be inclusive, you have to be inclusive with people who have other responsibilities in their lives. So, and we do that, and hopefully, as we do more surveys, we see that the numbers go up, and that actually helps with people's sense of belonging.
Yes, Tina.
Just to share a little bit of what we do here at Anaplan, we do have our ERG called WIN, which is Women's Network, and basically that's going to sort of hit more on the retention side of things. I think offering a monthly, luncheon, or they have guest speakers, or even somebody who they could be mentors to each other. But a place where really women here feel that they belong. In terms of looking at the data, I haven't measured the data. I'm not sure in terms of what it's done in terms, but I do know in terms of Anaplan, like we do have 5 engineering leaders that are women. And I think for a company that's still a startup, that's still smaller, it's definitely a pretty good number. But I think to be able to offer more in terms of ERGs to feel this that you belong, and I also think it's also always a work in progress. That's what we're even here today. I think you guys here for IT.
Okay, all right, so our time is coming to an end, but I hope that you've been inspired, you have an action to take to your teams. I love that we ended on a positive note with all the great things that you're all doing with your companies and with diversity and inclusion. So now I would like to open up the question and answer portion of the evening. So I would just ask that you try to be concise, and because we have only 10 minutes, and yeah, like keep it to the topic at hand, obviously. And I'm happy to pass